Imagine standing in the middle of your own graduation ceremony, the culmination of years of hard work, only to have the person who made your life a living hell step up to the microphone and try to strip away your dignity in front of hundreds of people. That was the moment my bully thought she finally won. But what she didn't realize was that I had been holding on to a secret so massive, so legally and socially explosive, that it wouldn't just ruin her day. It would dismantle her entire future. Before I get into how I turned the tables and left her standing there in total silence, I have to ask you, if someone spent 4 years trying to destroy your reputation, would you stay silent to keep the peace, or would you burn it all down to show them the truth? I chose the latter, and I don't regret a single second of it. To understand how we got to that stage, we have to go back to freshman year. I entered high school as the quiet girl, the one who stayed in the library and kept her head down. Maya, on the other hand, was the queen bee by birthright, or at least, that's what she thought. Her parents were wealthy, her clothes were expensive, and she had a way of looking at people like they were gum stuck to the bottom of her shoe. For reasons I still don't fully understand, she picked me as her target from day one. Maybe it was because I didn't fawn over her. Or maybe it was because I didn't react when she made snide comments about my thrift store sweaters. It started small, with accidental bumps in the hallway and whispers that stopped the moment I walked into a room. But as the years went by, Maya's obsession with making me miserable grew. She started rumors that were so vile they made it hard for me to make friends. She told people my family was struggling with things I won't even mention. And she even went as far as to sabotage my science fair project junior year, pouring bleach over my herb garden experiment the night before the presentation. I remember crying in the bathroom, wondering why someone could be so cruel for no reason at all. My parents told me to take the high road, that her behavior was a reflection of her own insecurities, but the high road is a very lonely and painful place to be when you're 17. What Maya didn't know, what nobody in that town knew, was that my quiet life was actually a front for something much bigger. While Maya was busy spending her daddy's money on designer bags and chasing likes on social media, I was building an empire. See, when I was 14, I started a small tech blog that evolved into a software consulting firm. I had a natural knack for coding and identifying security loopholes in corporate databases. I spent my nights in my room, not scrolling through Instagram, but analyzing code and securing contracts with companies that most adults couldn't even get an interview with. I taught myself Python, Java, and C++ while Maya was learning how to apply fake tan without streaks. By the time I was a sophomore, I was a silent partner in a firm that handled high-level data encryption for major retail chains. I was making more money in a month than Maya's parents made in a year, but I kept it a total secret. I drove a beat-up sedan, wore basic clothes, and lived in a modest house because my parents and I agreed that a normal childhood was more important than flaunting wealth. I wanted to be liked for who I was, not for my bank account. Maya constantly mocked me for being poor and average, and I let her. I let her think she was superior because I knew the truth. I knew that the building her father worked in was actually owned by a holding company that I held a 40% stake in. I held the keys to her family's lifestyle, and she was using her expensive shoes to kick me while I was down. I remember one specific afternoon in the cafeteria when she purposefully tripped me while I was carrying a tray of soup. As I scrambled to clean the mess off my second-hand jeans, she leaned down and whispered that I smelled like stale ambition and poverty. Her friends laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Little did she know, that morning I had signed off on a massive expansion for the very investment group her father desperately relied on for his annual bonuses. I sat there, soaked in lukewarm tomato soup, watching her walk away in her $800 boots, and I just smiled. It wasn't a smile of defeat. It was a smile of absolute, calculated patience. I spent hours in my room building my defense, not out of malice, but out of a need for survival. I tracked every single digital footprint she left. When she created that burn book-style Instagram account to mock the less popular kids, I didn't just report it. I traced it back to her home IP address and saved the logs. When she stole the answers to the AP history final and tried to tuck them into my locker, I caught her on a small hidden camera I'd installed because I knew she was planning something. I had gigabytes of evidence of her being a genuinely terrible person. Yet I waited. I waited because I knew that the higher she climbed, the harder she would fall. By senior year, the bullying became unbearable. Maya had found out I was applying for a prestigious scholarship, the only way she thought a girl like me could afford a good university. She made it her mission to ensure I didn't get it. She intercepted my mail. She spoke to the guidance counselor with fake concerns about my mental stability, and she even tried to frame me for cheating on a midterm exam by slipping a cheat sheet into my backpack. I barely cleared my name, and the stress was starting to break me. I started having panic attacks in the hallways, feeling like the entire world was closing in on me. My mother saw me shaking one evening after Maya had posted a doctored photo of me online that made it look like I was shoplifting, and she finally said, "Honey, you don't have to protect them anymore. You've proven you're the bigger person. Now be the smarter one." That was the green light I needed. I spent the next 3 months gathering every single piece of evidence. I used my technical skills to trace the IP addresses of the burner accounts she used to harass me. I recovered deleted messages she had sent to other students orchestrating my social exclusion. I even hired a private investigator to look into her father's business dealings, just to see how deep the rot went. What I found was shocking. Her father hadn't just been arrogant. He had been skimming from the very investment group I now partially controlled. He was using the company's capital to fund the extravagant lifestyle that Maya used as a weapon against me. He was essentially stealing from me to pay for the heels Maya used to stomp on my heart. The irony was poetic. Every designer bag she swung at me was essentially paid for with money stolen from a company I helped govern. I found records of offshore accounts, falsified travel expenses, and even a consulting fee paid to a shell company that was actually just Maya's college fund. It was disgusting. Our school announced that the valedictorian and the student of the year would both give speeches at graduation. Maya, through her mother's heavy donations to the school board, managed to snag the student of the year spot despite her mediocre grades. I, however, earned valedictorian through sheer academic merit. When the news broke, Maya was livid. She cornered me in the gym and told me that no matter what my grades were, I would always be a nobody, and that she was going to use her speech to set the record straight about who really deserved to be on that stage. She threatened to reveal proof that I had slept with teachers for my grades. A complete lie, but she was desperate enough to try it. She told me, "By the time I'm done with you, your valedictorian title won't be worth the paper it's printed on. You'll be the girl who cheated her way to the top, and I'll be the one the town remembers as the hero." So that's the situation I was in. I had the power to ruin her family's entire financial standing with a single phone call. And I had the evidence of her 4 years of harassment recorded and documented. I had to make a choice. Do I take the high road one last time and let her have her moment? Or do I use the biggest platform of our lives to expose her for exactly who she is? Before I tell you what happened when the microphones turned on and the secret came out, I want you to pause right now. Go down to the comments and tell me. If you were the secret millionaire being bullied by a girl who thought you were nothing, would you stay humble? Or would you choose maximum chaos? I really want to know if you think I went too far. Graduation day arrived. The air was thick with the smell of cut grass and expensive perfume. I sat on the stage in my polyester gown, feeling the weight of the flash drive in my pocket. Maya was seated 2 chairs away, smirking at me, occasionally whispering to her friends about how she couldn't wait to see me cry in front of the whole town. She was wearing a custom-made silk dress that probably cost more than my first car, looking like she already owned the world. When it was her turn to speak, she stood up with a confidence that only comes from never being told no. She started her speech normally, talking about leadership and privilege, but then she took a sharp turn. She looked directly at me and said, "We often talk about merit, but sometimes people get ahead by playing the victim, by pretending to be something they aren't to get sympathy and scholarships." The crowd went silent. She was publicly implying that my valedictorian status was a pity prize. She went on for 5 minutes, subtly tearing down my character, my family, and my future. She thought she was burying me. She even went as far as to say that some people are born to lead, and others are born to serve, looking pointedly at my parents in the 3rd row. She finished by saying, "It's time for real honesty in this town, and some of us are tired of the charade." My father just winked at me. He knew what was coming. When she finished, there was a smattering of awkward applause. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the podium, plugged my flash drive into the laptop connected to the giant projector screens meant for the graduation slideshow, and I didn't start with a thank you. I started by saying, Maya is right about one thing. People do pretend to be things they aren't. Some pretend to be poor, while others pretend to be honorable. I clicked a button, and instead of my childhood photos, the screens filled with screenshots. I showed the Bleach ruin project. I showed the security footage I had legally obtained of her slipping the cheat sheet into my bag. I showed the logs of the fake emails she sent to the scholarship board. The gasps from the parents were deafening. I heard Maya's mother shriek from the front row, demanding the principal turn off the screen. But the technician in the back was someone I'd personally hired for the event to ensure the slideshow went off without a hitch. She started her speech normally, talking about leadership and privilege, but then she took a sharp turn. She looked directly at me and said, "We often talk about merit, but sometimes people get ahead by playing the victim, by pretending to be something they aren't to get sympathy and scholarships." The crowd went silent. She was publicly implying that my valedictorian status was a pity prize. She went on for 5 minutes, subtly tearing down my character, my family, and my future. She thought she was burying me. She even went as far as to say that some people are born to lead, and others are born to serve, looking pointedly at my parents in the third row. She finished by saying, "It's time for real honesty in this town, and some of us are tired of the charade." My father just winked at me. He knew what was coming. When she finished, there was a smattering of awkward applause. Then it was my turn. I walked up to the podium, plugged my flash drive into the laptop connected to the giant projector screens meant for the graduation slideshow, and I didn't start with a thank you. I started by saying, Maya is right about one thing. People do pretend to be things they aren't. Some pretend to be poor, while others pretend to be honorable. I clicked a button, and instead of my childhood photos, the screens filled with screenshots. I showed the Bleach ruin project. I showed the security footage I had legally obtained of her slipping the cheat sheet into my bag. I showed the logs of the fake emails she sent to the scholarship board. The gasps from the parents were deafening. I heard Maya's mother shriek from the front row, demanding the principal turn off the screen. But the technician in the back was someone I'd personally hired for the event to ensure the slideshow went off without a hitch. Maya's family was forced to move into a cheap motel while the bank seized their mansion. Because her father had used company funds for personal luxury, he was facing 10 to 15 years in prison. Maya herself became a social pariah. The same friends who had laughed at her jokes now blocked her on everything, fearing that their own involvement in her bullying would be exposed next. I actually had some of them message me, apologizing and trying to grab coffee, but I ignored every single one. I knew their loyalty was as shallow as Maya's bank account. The school board tried to apologize to me, offering me a special ceremony, but I declined. I didn't need their validation. I had already taken back my dignity. The aftermath was a whirlwind that lasted for months. Maya's family had to sell almost everything to settle the debts her father had accumulated, and to pay for the mounting legal fees. Because I was the primary creditor, I had full control over the liquidation. I saw the list of their assets. The summer house, the luxury SUVs, even Maya's designer closet. She lost her spot at her dream university, because the school board couldn't ignore the evidence of her harassment, and the criminal cloud hanging over her family name. I heard she eventually had to take a job at a local diner just to help her mother pay rent on a tiny apartment. It's funny how life works. She spent years making fun of the service class, and now she was the one wearing the apron and clearing the tables. As for me, I moved to a different city, far away from the toxic memories of high school. I bought a penthouse under a different name and continued growing my business, but I did it with a new sense of purpose. I used the proceeds from the buyout to establish a massive scholarship fund for victims of school bullying, ensuring they had the resources to fight back and succeed. I also funded a digital ethics program for the school district I left behind, hoping to prevent another Maya from rising to power. I didn't take their house in the end. I sold it to a local nonprofit that turns it into a shelter for at-risk youth. I figured it was a better use of the space than housing a bully. I even made sure the scholarship I founded was named after the science project she ruined, the Herb Garden Grant. It felt like the circle was finally complete. Sometimes I wonder if Maya ever thinks about that day. Does she look back and realize that her downfall was entirely her own making? Does she regret the bleach, the rumors, and the poor jokes? If she had just been a decent human being, she would still be living her dream. But she chose hate, and hate has a very high interest rate. I learned that true wealth isn't about the balance in your bank account. It's about the character you build when no one is watching. I was a millionaire for years and nobody knew, because I didn't need to use my money to feel important. Maya had nothing but her money, and once that was gone, she realized she was truly empty. Looking back, I realized that the greatest revenge wasn't the money or the buyout. It was the look on her face when she realized that the person she thought was beneath her was actually the one holding her entire world in her hands. It taught me that you should never mistake someone's silence for weakness, and you should never assume you know someone's story based on the shoes they wear. My life is quiet again now, just the way I like it, but I'm no longer the girl hiding in the library. I'm the woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to protect it. I spend my time traveling now, working from my laptop on beaches where no one knows my name or my past. I've made real friends, people who like me for my ideas and my humor, not for what I can do for them. I still wear thrift store sweaters sometimes, but now it's a choice, not a necessity. If there's a moral here, it's that kindness costs nothing, but cruelty can cost you everything you hold dear. Success is the best revenge, but sometimes, a little bit of well-timed justice doesn't hurt either. If you're being bullied right now, just remember, your current situation is not your final destination. Keep working in the dark, keep building your empire, and wait for your moment to shine. Like this video if you think I did the right thing by exposing her on that stage, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories of bullies getting exactly what they deserve. Let me know in the comments. Did I go too far by getting her father fired and investigated? Or was that just part of the price she had to pay for her actions? I really want to hear your thoughts on whether the punishment fit the crime. I'll see you all in the next story.